Okay, we're just going to go ahead and continue. I got interrupted there in a little bit. Not that it matters to any end user, but um, I had a little meeting, a virtual meeting, where um, I'm going to have to, put that last video into two parts, or this video into two parts. Either way, it doesn't matter. Where we left off was registering for an account. And if I click this register button, that one didn't work. This image wasn't pulling up, so I put a forward slash um, here on my image tag, and that ultimately got my URL to my relative link to go to localhost forward slash logobug.png. Instead of there's a user directory was prefixing that with, and that was not correct. So basically got it to go to the root of public. There's no extra folders. So that worked there. Now back on my login form, I'm going to add the same slash and make sure that that does not, yeah, it still works in both locations. So we're good there. Grant, did you tinker away at this register form, or did you take a break?
I got a little bit done. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, kind of glancing at the console, no errors coming up, and we do have first, last, email, and password. Now let's look at what else. Email confirm, password confirm, given family full. I think we end up combining full on our back end. Let's look at our back end of our issue tracker when we coded this and we register a user. We make our full name, so we don't need to ask for a full name if they give us the two pieces. We can and do combine a full name as a given name plus a space plus a family name. So we don't need that. Let's see on our back end exactly what we're asking for. So we're asking for email, password, given, family, and that's it. Email, password, given, family. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, which I think first, last, email, password is what we ask for. Now we can write a little, maybe password confirm would make sense. I'm not too worried about email confirm, because really what you would learn to do, right, in most websites, they're going to send you an email, which, by the way, there are all sorts of packages to have your server send emails. And that's probably more realistic of what you would do nowadays. So I'm not worried about email confirm, because you would have the end user verify their email by checking their email, clicking a link, and that would update the user account that they have been confirmed, which would probably be a check mark in a database. True or false. Password confirm, don't worry about full name. And error and success, again, you can handle that with we can do errors and successes. Login form. So let's go to register form. Since this is kind of a pretty standard registration form. We'll kind of keep the errors on the page, is what I'm thinking. And then if it's a successful registration, we'll obviously log in the user and redirect them to the right page. Now, that just kind of makes me think we need to go ahead and fix our problem that we currently have. Ooh, data breach. Bad password. The problem that I currently am having that we can fix is when we log in appropriately, we hit the database, and that took a second, but it worked. If you refresh, you kind of lose your credentials. That's the problem that I want to fix, because as I'm registering a new user, I want this fixed in both of these cases. Whether I'm logging in as a user or registering as a user, when I refresh, I don't want to lose my credentials. And so the way that we do that is with local storage. And then we'll come back to the user registration. And so this is going to be an app where we're basically, when we log in, we're going to save our auth token. We're going to save our auth token into local storage using the useEffect hook. So we have useEffect here, and I'll bring in useEffect, which is a method, and it has this anonymous arrow function, and then that's the first argument, is that anonymous arrow function. And then here, this is when do you run useEffect, and this is when anytime the auth is changed, we're going to rerun useEffect. And then inside of useEffect, we say, hey, if the client supports local storage, now we got to bring in JWT decode, import JWT underscore decode from JWT hyphen decode. Let's go ahead and see if we have a stored auth token in local storage. Local storage dot get item. So local storage is pretty simple. You basically say get item or set item, and then you pass it a key and a value. So this is like, hey, look inside of local storage for an item with a key of auth token. And if there is a stored auth token, then let's use JWT decode to decode the data that's in there, stored in the payload variable. So we got some nested ifs going on here. And then if there's an auth payload, if auth payload, then let's construct an auth object with that payload. The token property of stored auth token, a payload property of auth payload, an email auth payload dot email, and then user ID auth payload dot underscore ID. And let's then set the auth. So basically, if you support local storage, try and read an item. If there's an item, decode the item. If you decode the item, extract the data and set the auth hook. And actually, that would create an infinite loop the way I have that coded, because we set the auth and then we run it again, and then we set the auth and then we run it again. So this is only going to be done on load. So don't change that there. Now here, when we log in, I'm going to set my item if local storage. So this is reading from local storage. This is going to be writing to local storage. So when we click login, if local storage is supported on the client, which again, all modern browsers circa 2015 should, local storage dot set item auth token is our key, and auth dot, and again I think, so auth is what we're passing in, so let's go to our login form, and here we called it auth token, so we need to make sure that the properties match. Auth token, lowercase a, capital T, auth token. So again, we created the property when we logged in called auth token. Therefore, when we set the item. So now when we log in, we set auth token. When we log out, we set on. Okay, so let's give that a whirl. Let's log out. Clearly I got some sort of bad loop happening. Look at that. What did I break? We do, I think that infinite loop started and I don't think it stopped. So what I need to do, what I want to do here is I want to kind of close it down, because I think I coded a infinite loop here, and just start it back up. Go to my console, it's nice and clean. I log in, yeah, that infinite loop was hit, and okay. Little bug here, let's figure out what's going on. Okay, I think I see what's going on. So here I'm constructing an auth object with the token property stored auth token, right? But when I log in, my auth object, I called it auth token. So I've got two, depending on whether you're logging in or whether we're using use state. So I want to name them consistently. Now the thing here is res.data.auth token. I'm just going to call this token. So token, and then I go back here. Auth.token. So this auth object has a property of token, now my login form auth object has a property of token. So I just was naming them different things, and that was causing a problem. I don't know if it was my only problem, but it was causing a problem. Now, let's see if localhost 3000 console, and now you can kind of see I'm getting a console log. I'm getting, because I didn't log out, and I'm currently logged in. I'm getting my auth token showing up, so that's good. So let me log out. Okay. And password to password. Let's try again. Gotta love bugs. Let's take a look at this now. What was working? Don't you love something was working and then you try and fix something else and it breaks something?
Yeah.
Welcome to software development.
I'm chasing the problem.
Yeah. So here, notice when we refactored our auth object and we have the property of auth.token, no longer auth token. So this will become auth.token, and that would explain why we were no longer getting our data when we were logging in. So if we clear that out, and now we can refresh, and albeit we get some initial errors, but as the life cycle of the page goes through, it does ultimately render our code. So again, you kind of get this 401 error, when things are initially loading, but then it does as we read the auth token and then kind of finish the life cycle of the page, it does kind of show through. So yes, there's some console errors, but if I close the console and log out, you really don't see that. EA Gudmested at rankin.edu, password of password. We see the data's there, and if we refresh the page, the data stays there. All right. Grant, you doing all right?
Yep, mine's good.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just refactoring one thing, changed it somewhere else. You know how it goes. And where are we? Where did we leave off? Okay, so let's kind of close package JSON. We no longer need our footer. We no longer need good ignore. You never know if you need the login form. Probably are good on our index. We have our register form. Probably are good on our bug list. So I'll have my login form, my error form. Let's throw in a little, we already have a repeat your password. That'd be good. Let's repeat our password. And HTML4. Again, this is kind of a fun, awesome icon here. We can replace that. Checkbox to make sure that we agree with some, selling our souls or whatever. The internet. The question becomes, where do we want to repeat your password? We'll do a little front side validation to make sure that the passwords match. And now you think about this, new users register, okay? So if I'm thinking logically about this, you don't want to take them to the bug list, because the bug list is locked down by permissions, right? So I'm just thinking, like, if I'm making this for an employer And, you know, they want to use this site. You know, hey, check this out, use this. Well, maybe we give an initial role of customer, right? On the back end, you can automatically be a customer, and maybe a customer can view bugs, right? And something to that extent, right? What I'm saying is you don't want to like have a user create an account and then navigate them automatically to a page where there's nothing for them to see. And even then, like, oh, you know, please contact your sysadmin to get the permissions to see the data. Just go ahead and let them see some data. It's all dummy data anyways. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Maybe customer's not the right role. Maybe we give them a default role. And so, you know, if I go to my Mongo, you know, maybe deciding what role do we give our customers, and then we'll need to update that on the back end, and then update that on the live site. You know, that way issue tracker, browse collections, roles. Okay. Probably give them maybe a role of developer by default. And developers can view data, can create bugs, you know, some basics. So that's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and give on the back end. So here's my back end. Instead of role of null, we'll do a role of developer. So and I might refactor my object here because there's one property called success, and maybe I'll say message new user added, comma, user ID, or user ID property, which just has the new user ID, comma, auth token, colon, auth token. So now our response, our success, has a message, it has a user ID, and it has a auth token, capital A, capital T. Kind of curious, if I look at my login, it is lowercase a. So message, auth token, and user ID. So we'll do lowercase auth token and user ID, lowercase user ID. So just like before, when you log in, you get a message, a user ID, and a token. Message, user ID, and a token. So that's on login. This is on register. And new users are developers by default. Okay. So if I look at my users, Evan has an array, null, null, null. This is also an array. Doug Gegelman. Now, our new user will have a single single role. Of course, you can have multiple roles. So EA Gudmestad at rankin.edu. Let's go back to our front end. And maybe while I'm here, since I refactored this, need to test it, but for now, let's just deploy my back end. I don't think I did anything too crazy to break famous last words. And make sure it's going to the right project. That looks good to me. Back to the front end. Set email, set password. Let's go ahead and have a confirm password. And down here, we'll take a look at our type of password, form control. Autocomplete would also be new password. Probably we don't want to autocomplete this one. On change. Set confirm password, and this is confirm capital password. Got extra curly. There we go. Okay. Let's make a click handler for the register button, button large. Let's go down to my button. On click equals we'll make a function called register user. There's this other syntax for making functions. It's kind of const equals EVT arrow curly, kind of the same difference. A little bit newer. You know, this is called a function expression versus a function declaration. You see them both, so let's just do this one. EVT prevent default console log okay. Somewhere we got an error somewhere in there, so let's see where. That sticky footer is really not playing nice. We got probably a little bit too much going on with positioning, but our register button is clicked. So const password confirm error equals, we say does password equal confirm password, not equal. Does password not equal confirm passwords? We'll say passwords do not match. Otherwise, we leave it empty. And somewhere on our registration form, we need a spot for errors. Let's just glance at it. Probably up at the top, right? Sign up. Sign up. We'll do a little P. Now here we'll say if password confirm error, set error, password confirm error. So ultimately we'll be passing this error message to our error state and displaying that right above here. So we say if there's an error and something like that. So I am going to get rid of that sticky footer. I've had enough. Sticky bottom, go away. I made it worse. I made it worse. It's not bad when you don't have a council. Actually, I could argue that I didn't make that worse because when it's full screen, you see it. But when it's something smaller, I'm still seeing my controls, which is actually what I would prefer for right now. We could troubleshoot that problem, but actually in the meantime, this is preferable over to what it was. So I'm fine with that. We'll come back to that if it bothers me enough. Okay, passwords don't match. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Should say passwords do not match. Now, also what you do is you return. So here, so that nothing else in this function would run, you run, this function would exit after hitting the keyword return. What else? We can bring in our other email error and password error, really. These would be just the same. We could say if email error, set error, email error, and return. If password error, and you could really, this is a little imperfect because if you have multiple errors, you're just going to see one at a time, and the user has to click to see one error, click again to see another error. So you could be more thorough with if this and this, or this and that. You could be really thorough with all your conditions. So it's not the friendliest, but it's just something to... I'm also, at the top of this, I'm just going to set error to empty. And then based on these conditions, right? So we're going to assume no error, but if these conditions hit, then we set the error. And we're ready to say, okay, we did a little front-end validation, and you know, we could write something like if first name, you know, is truthy, right? So if first name is truthy and last name is truthy and password and password confirm. Well, we already did. We made sure that password and password confirm match. First, last password. First, last email. Okay, then we're ready to call Axios. Kind of like the idea of making this asynchronous function. And I believe you do so with the async here. There we go. Because this is your function right here. Arrow, you know, your arrow function. So we have that newer syntax, which I like a lot. Await Axios dot. So we're going to register, and we stored that in a response. So we store the response. Let's bring in Axios. And let's check our backend. Hopefully, yeah, everything deployed service, okay. Backend's deployed. The point that I wanted to look at was our backend and look to make sure it was a post, right? So when we're registering a new user, it is a post. So Axios post. Now role is no longer being read out of rec.body. Role is automatically being assigned. So I'm not going to delete that. Role is declared, but it's never read, right? Because we're just assigning role right here. I don't think I'm going to break anything, famous last words, by deleting the role on the back end. It's a post. We need to give it 4 pieces of information: email, password, given, and family. And so here on our post, like we do here, it's 2 arguments. The URL, which is as such. I'm going to copy this. It's no longer template. It's no longer API users login. It is now API users, which should be API users / register. So it is now a register route. So I'm going to replace the word login with the word register. comma, and then the second, this is our object, that's our data, which is, what? Is email colon email, password colon password, here I'm calling it first name, last name. It's because that's in my hook. So, given name, colon, first name, comma, family name, colon, last name. So those are the 4 fields. We're sending across to our backend. So it needs to be email, password, given, and family. Email, password, given, and family. Should be role of developer. Okay, there's our Axios call. And kind of going back here to our login form. Here's our Axios call. We're going to wrap this in a try catch. So there's our try catch error. So we're going to wrap our Axios call in a try catch right here. We're going to try. Now, we kind of, when we logged in a user, we read an auth token out of res.data. So what comes back is res.data. That's our object. And then there was an auth token. So just here on our back end, auth token right there. So res.data is this object right here. Auth token has our auth token, so we need to extract that with JWT decode, import oh, we already have it. We need it over here. JWT code on our register form. And const auth payload equals JWT decode res data auth token. So just like we did over here, auth payload JWT res data auth token capital T. Looks good. Let's go ahead and throw in a console log. Auth payload. Construct our auth object and pass that to on login, and we will show success. So it's very similar. Const auth to logging in. Const auth equals, here's our object, and let's bring in those properties. So email is email, token is auth token, payload is auth payload. Now show success comes from app, right? This is our show success. This is our toast. So just how we piped down show success to our login form, we're going to pipe down show success here. Show success. in show success here into the register form, which is a method we can destructure, show success. Show success here, which just takes, what is our message? Email welcome Bob. And then we need to log the user in with on login. So on login also comes from app. If here's on login, we set our auth token with auth and we store it in local storage. And we navigate to bug list. So we're going to do the same. We're going to send on login to our register. On login, so let's receive it over here. On login and show success. We're going to call on login, pass it the auth object. Now I'm going to rip this little bit of error handling, copy and paste my error, and we need to bring in show error from here. Show error equals show error, and then in the register form, show error. Hey-o. I'm getting register form line 72, something is not defined. Oh, I gotta bring in Lodash. Import underscore from Lodash. Now, don't try this at home. It's always best to test locally and then deploy it, right, to the live. But I'm just skipping right to the live. Which is not a good assumption that everything's going to work, because we just wrote a lot of code. But let's try it. So I'm going to log out. Going to click this register for an account because that's wired up correctly. My labels aren't wired up correctly. That one is, that one is, that one's not, that one's not. We'll fix that. Okay, well, we've got Bob Smith. bobsmith@gmail.com. We're not doing anything with that checkbox right now. Let's go to the console. It's currently clean. Register clicked. Bob Smith is logged in. Google doesn't like that. Doesn't like my password. But Bob Smith has been redirected. He has permissions to view some data. And let's check our database. If I refresh my users, there's Bob Smith. Oh, there's, I'm like, where's this created on? Created on role of developer. How'd your register work?
Perfect.
Right on. Me too. If I go to edits, insert user, auth was null, which is correct. You don't have to be authorized to insert a user. Well, I guess these are all old, but here's insert user. Oh, interesting. Maybe I was. Wait a minute. That's not today. Uh, 626. My edits, I would expect a user insert here. So maybe that's a bug, or maybe I'm just not finding it. But presumably, yeah. Oh, out of many. Oh, there's more. But wait, there's more. There it is. That's today. 725. Insert user, null. Just had to get to the last page of results. So roles remains unchanged, bugs remains unchanged. I have a new user, I have a new edit. Let's check some of our validation. We log out Bob Smith. Now, bobsmith@gmail.com. Bad password. Log in. Invalid credentials. Good password. Let's log in Bob Smith. We're logged in. We see the data. Come on in. I can always... Alright, so we pretty well have the register form up and working with our validation. Again, we just kind of did these things. We log in the user. We check for some validation errors. Not worried about displaying a spinner. Also add a link to go to the login route in case the user already has. So if I go log out and I go register for an account. Maybe underneath our checkbox. Now, you know, you write a simple if statement. If the checkbox isn't checked, then you don't register for the account, right? So let's do that. So let's do the checkbox. Not that we even have a terms of service, but let's just make them check it. And then add a link to the login route. So a couple things there. This is on our register form. Let's bring in link. Maybe underneath the register button. So here's register. This is a deflex justify content center, margin on the left and right, margin on the bottom, margin bottom large 4. So here let's just throw another link tag to /user/login. Already have an account. Put in a little break. Well, it's Flexbox, so it's making them let's do a column. Get Bootstrap, Flexbox, docs, find the Flexbox under helper, under utilities, flex, and get it to go vertical flex column. So this is our deflex. Let's do flex column. Put it on the wrong thing. I meant to put it on this one, on this div. Flex column. There we go. And what was justify content, now it's align items. Align items center. There we go. When you change the alignment, that changes which one of those it is. Good old Flexbox. Okay, already have an account. If we click it, /user/login must not be it. It just goes to the root. I just made that up. Link to root. So if I go register for an account, and then if I click already have an account, it brings me back to login. Register, already have an account. And I'm gonna, on the home page, I'm gonna get rid of this link because that's not working. So that is on the login form, and that's my cool. Because that's like button right up to it. Let's do margin start 3. And on this one, let's do margin bottom 3. Put those down a little bit. Space that out a little bit. Go to register. Already have an account. Okay. Now if I go back to login, Bob Smith at Gmail, password of password, click login, welcome Bob Smith. Okay, console's looking good. Back to here, add a link to login. Okay, bug list item. We already got our bug list item. We did a table, card, or table. Table row to display the item. not too worried about the specifics. Display an open close status with a badge. So we can kind of go into here and see a badge instead of just the word true or false. So Bootstrap badge, it's just another almost looks like a button, but you can't click it. And so it's done with the class of badge and then badger color. And there's some different colors, of course. And that's a button with a badge. But probably we just want something like this, maybe a different color, maybe like badge info. That's cool. So let's throw the class of badge and badge text bg info. Throw those classes on our bug list item. Bug item, here, td, class name, badge text bg info. So now, it's okay. Not too concerned with this. I don't know if I like it. Use moment to format the date. So let's do that. Moment is an NPM package. Moment.format. Well, it's pretty simple to bring in moment. So let's take a look at moment. Let's see if we have it installed. We do have it installed. So how about on our bug item, let's import, let's see if we can get an import. Import, how do we import moment? Import moment from moment, I'm just gonna guess. Import from moment. And our bug, go back to my database and I look at my bugs. It has a created on, classified on, created on. So this says this is kind of giving us a moment item created on from now. For an example. So our bug has created on property, so let's just get that in the table first. And maybe we redo factor this as a card. I don't know. I'm not td bug.created on. Okay, so created on. Okay, so now we've got the date, and let's look at the docs. Now, this lab kind of says created on from now, like 23 days ago kind of thing. So let's say moment. Let's just let's just follow that example. Moment dot created on dot from now. Let's just follow that example and see how that looks. 15 days ago. Well, that's cool. Of course, now we need a new column in our bug list. So here's our bug list. Closed. Let's do created on and then closed. Created 15 days ago. So then we'll flip these and put this one above that one. Created 15 days ago. Now, Grant, you had the idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you wanted another button here that took you to an edit screen for that bug?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. So TD button class name button small edit bug button okay, and we're just gonna have to wire this up using the bug's ID. And this is not, I'm not loving this with my badge kind of being positioned the way it is. And let me go to my Bootstrap tables and just see if there's like a align content, something inside of a table cell. Tables. Tables under content. And striped, hoverable rows, active tables. Without borders. Maybe we're going to try the align hyphen middle. Didn't do anything for me. Oh, that was that was on the table. This is on a TD, align top. This cell is aligned to the top. That's what I'm trying to do. Of course, you're already aligned to the top. let me throw the align middle on the whole table. The table was back here. Table striped, align middle. Meh. Not loving it. Not important. Let's glance. Bug list. We already got the bug list taken care of. Add a link to the bug list item that links to the bug ID. Okay, so this is what we were doing. We're gonna refactor that button to be a link instead. So here on the bug item, instead of this being a button, we'll make it a link, which makes sense. Link from React Router DOM and link, close link. It can still look like a button, but the two will be /bug/bug ID. So we have to set up this route /bug/bug ID. So back here in app, scroll down, route path /bug/bug ID. Element equals and Grant, what component was that for you?
I think I had the bug summary set up to show all the information on the bug, and then I had a bug editor to edit info. I wasn't quite sure how I wanted it structured.
Right.
I almost I think in my mind right now I'm thinking that you have the list or the table of just some basic information, and then you can go to see the full bug.
And then go to edit the bug?
I guess so. I don't love that there's that many steps to go edit it, but that's where
Right. I might skip a step in between, you know. I might just go, you know, you kind of see a lesser version. If you click edit, you see all the fields.
yeah.
But I understand what you're doing, and I think you know how to implement that, but well, so that would make, that would not be, this would not be the edit. If I kind of back up here, this would be like show full bug details.
Right.
Show bug details.
Or it can just be the editor too. We can keep doing the editor on your end right now. I'm not sure exactly what I want to do anyway.
Right. Yeah. Let's just do it. Edit bug. So that's our route. That's edit bug, and then that's going to mean bug editor is what I'm looking at. So if I look at a bug editor, so let's make a new component. Okay, so here the element is bug editor. So if they go to /bug/bug ID, they go to bug editor, and bug editor just says bug editor. So let's go to /bug/bug ID in our gibberish. That brings us to bug editor. That's good. So now if I go back to our bug item, this like I knew my 2 needed a JavaScript template backtick, but I forgot to get into JavaScript world we have to do this curly's link to, and then here slash, trying to remember the URL I need to go to, bug/bug ID /bug/ bug._ID. So that's going to get the URL with the bug ID in it, and then you have to extract that on the other side. But if I go here, now, as I hover these 3 bugs, you can see my local host /bug/ID takes you there, and that takes you to bug editor with that. Last letters EB. If I click the second one, last letters ED. Third bug, last letters EF. So that's the first part, is getting the URL constructed and taking you to the right component. Then you have to read that out of the URL, hit the database, get the bug again with Axios, populate the form with all the data, click a edit button or a save button, and that's the process that we're about to step through.
Like using that JavaScript.
So on app, I just have one route where it says, hey, if you go to /bug and then put a string after it, then it shows up the bug editor.
Okay.
So /bug/anything that's not one of these take you to bug editor.
Okay.
Now let's make sure, because again, sometimes the order of these things matter. So maybe bug list should still work. If I go to bug lists, there you go. Bug list still works. Yeah. Are you to this point, Grant, or you got a bug somewhere?
My bug editor isn't showing up. Like my URL it's going to the bug ID, the correct bug IDs, but then it's
Yeah.
just a page
Are you
when I
like
get
me, and on your bug editor you forgot to return?
No.
All right, let's take a look. Okay, yeah, back after a little break, and where we left off was editing a bug. Now, this got the URL kind of created for us with the bug ID, And then what we're going to need to do is bring that bug ID in on the bug editor and then hit the database again and read the bug. You know, it'd be nice to be able to pass that bug through because we got a bug right here. But this is not really a custom component. It's not like we can, on the other ones, we could do like bug equals bug. And I don't think that's gonna work. Well, why? Because we can't, it's not like we're sending it to a link, you know, where we could receive it. So unfortunately, at this point, we hit the database again. And I say unfortunately, it's just, you know, anytime you gotta do a full round trip to the database, it takes a little bit of time. So I'm gonna import link, or actually use navigate from React Router. And that will allow us to, use params, not use navigate, use params. And use params will allow us to read from the URL, the parameter data. And so we have in the URL, we have this colon bug ID. So let me maybe kind of close some of the stuff. We're not working on login. We'll keep bug item open just in case. We'll keep bug editor. I don't think we're going to need the bug list. I don't think we need the registration or the footer. All right, so here's our bug editor, and const, we throw in the bug ID equals use params. And let me just put that into the paragraph and see if we can get the bug ID out of there. Now we need a singular parent, so let's just do that. Okay, so we get the bug ID read correctly. That'll allow us to hit the use effect, import from React, use effect. This is where we'll hit Axios, get bug by ID. And so maybe we'll make use effect, and how about use state, and then we'll make a state variable const bug set bug null. This is Axios. This is the URL. Now this is, you know, the version that returns a promise. So this second piece so this is going to be our process env React app API URL slash we got to get bug by ID. So if we follow our find bug by ID API slash bugs slash ID API slash bugs slash bug ID. And we got to bring in Axios. then you get a response. Otherwise, catch an error. Method is get, right? So we got a get method, and we need to send the token over. Headers. Authorization, colon. Now auth, you need to accept it here. So in bug editor, you got to pipe over. So wherever we call bug editor, which is here, bug editor, auth equals auth, so that we can use the token. Now again, I always got to remember, if I look at like my login, let's just make sure that it is auth.token. Auth.token. Looks good. Close my login form. Okay, so let's console log res.data in the event of something good happening. ERR in the event of something bad happening. So this is on the page load, and let's run this anytime the bug ID changes or auth changes. It means the user relogs in. And see if we can get some data back from our back end. Hey Connor, what's up?
You busy right now?
Never too busy for you.
Oh, thanks. I was just kind of curious about certain things for next semester's class.
Sure. Looks like we're getting data. Okay, so as you can see in my console, I've got a bug with a bunch of data. So then it becomes, now that we're getting the data out of the database, we need to put this in controls to edit. And let me bring in Grant's HTML, and we'll make changes as necessary. So if I go to my bug editor and plop in this form, and I will also bring in his hooks. So we got a title, description, steps to reproduce, and classification. And that kind of cleans that up. Looking good. Now, so we got for HTML, replace with HTML4, replace all. There we go. There we go. Now clicking the label focuses the control, and this will be bug.title. Oh, wait a minute, we're not there yet. So here we've got the data inside of res.data. And so what we do in the event that we get the data is we're going to set the bug. Set the bug. And I thought I had there it is, set the bug. Instead of putting all the individual fields, we'll just load them all into one object called setBug. And we will make some local functions. So after useEffect, you want to do all your hooks up top. Right, so after the useEffect hook, we'll do a function edit. Let's look at the fields. This will be called edit title. Edit title. And it can accept an event. Const new title equals EBT target dot value. Set bug. Previous bug. Arrow. Parentheses, curlies. Spread the previous bug. And set the title to new title. Semicolon. So that's a function called edit title that we are going to call edit title and pass it the event object. And this will be bug.title. Okay, so that's for now. I'm just going to comment that out. Bring these back in one at a time. And it's having a hard time with my title. Let me back up here. Okay, let me log out. Okay, cannot read a title, yet my bugs should have a title. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do bug question mark. If there's a bug, then display the title. And okay, there we go. A component is changing uncontrolled. Okay, I've seen that error before, but let me clear that out. Let me log out and see if we get that error again. Logged in. There's a little log there. If I edit my bug, there we go. Okay. So yeah, I had to mark this as nullable. And so, hey, if there's a bug, then display the title. Again, React in its life cycle of components is a weird thing. It just seems to constantly refresh and change state and rerun. And so when the page loads, we might not be able to get the bug, but then you do get the bug once Axios runs, and then, you know, it was crashing when there was no bug title, but you just had to let Axios do its thing, and then that worked. Okay, so this is where I am. Grant, are you in the same place?
Not quite.
Okay, no
I'm a
problem.
little.
And I
a
did
little
notice that when I refresh is when I get this warning. Undefined to a defined, which should not happen, deciding which between an uncontrolled and uncontrolled. Yeah, I've seen this many times before in React. So what do you got going on, and then I'll take a look at my problem. Okay, went ahead and helped out Grant with his situation. I think long story short, Grant, and correct me if I'm wrong, we got a pipe down auth like such. I think you just had a typo in that your auth was outside of the element, I think, and it somehow wasn't, it somehow wasn't giving us some sort of other error, which I would have expected. But yeah, once we piped auth down to the bug editor, then that was working. Now the next error that I'm getting here kind of talks about, and you can see, a component is changing uncontrolled input to be controlled. When they say uncontrolled, as ChatGPT, I kind of threw that in there. Uncontrolled is like your traditional, like you're changing state through the DOM. And then controlled elements are controlled through use state hook in React. And so it's like, hey, you're changing this from the DOM to changing it from like editing from the DOM to React hook. I think what it boils down to, I think once I maybe flush this page out a little bit more with the description, steps, and classification, maybe this goes away, is what I'm thinking, because here on my bug editor, basically this value, bug is always in my state. There's a null state here. And bug.title, unless bug is some sort of naming conflict, which I don't think it is, this value is always being handled by, well, bug is always in my use state. So I don't know. I maybe we'll come back to that. So let me bring this back. We're going to make a function called edit description. And it's going to be very similar to the last one. Spread the previous bug and change the description to the new description. Missing a parenthesis, missing a closing parenthesis. And so spread the bug, change the description to the new description. And here we now call edit description, passing it event, and then the value, if there's a bug, show its description. More or less just curious now if I comment out the title and just have the description. Let me clear that out. Yeah, so I'll troubleshoot these, but let me kind of continue to flush these out, and then I'll probably find my mistake. So here's steps to reproduce function. Let's just do const edit steps equals EVT arrow curlies. Now there is no, this is on change. On change, these are all on change. Yeah, okay. New steps equals let me look up the actual property. Steps to reproduce. This is called edit steps. Edit steps, passing an event. Last but not least, classification. Now this one might be a little bit different. Kind of going back to our discussion earlier, but let's kind of edit classification. Okay, set bug, new classification, and scroll down, edit classification, passing the event. Is there a bug? Classification. Okay, approved. Okay, just troubleshooting with ChatGPT here, kind of said, hey, it's still not fixing the error. I gave it a little bit of my code. And it wants me to initialize a bug with a title to an empty string. And so that's what I'm going to try. Instead of setting my use state to a null object, we're going to change it to title empty string, as well as all of the fields. So here's our empty object, and title empty string, comma, description, empty string, comma, steps to reproduce, empty string, and classification to an empty string. So kind of changing my initial state there. Clear. Refresh. ChatGPT solves another one. shall we continue? Update bug needs an event listener. Scrolling down, here's our bug. Input, class name button. We'll do button type of submit. On click. On update bug. Pass it to EVT. Let's make this function up above. I always test my event listeners. Wire up an event listener. What I do? My button needs a closing button. And this will say edit bug. I put a little extra console log right here that's no longer needed. I'm gonna kind of get rid of some of these console logs. Those, again, that's maybe a bug I can fix in my bug tracker, but ultimately those aren't problems. Now we need to prevent default. You see that refresh happening? I click that and refresh. We need a prevent default. Very nice. Let's make this a sync await Axios dot edit bug. Update bug by ID is a put. We did a put on our back end. Let's just double check that. Bug get a bug, new bug, put. Something tells me this has permission. It should be filled out on some level. Do you have a has permission on your update your bug by its put?
Can't edit any bug.
Can edit any bug.
Can edit if assigned to.
Can edit if assigned to, like that?
And can edit my bug.
Like that?
Yes.
Thank you. And that's essentially any one of those permissions. So it is a put, so that's ultimately what I was checking. Axios dot put. Two things. Number one is my connection string, which is I could tell it's getting to be the end of the day. It's forward slash. Yeah, it's forward slash. End of the day, I mean it's only 11:45. 1:45. Forward slash API bugs. API bugs bug ID. And then the second one would be an object with our data. And this we're going to store in a const response. We're going to wrap this on a try block. And the data that we're going to pass here, there's just 4 fields, would be title, bug.title, and last but not least, description. Okay, so we're trying to do what Axios put to my live bugs by bug ID. API bugs bug ID, it's a put. API bugs bug ID, it's a put. Title, description, steps to reproduce, or classification. Now classification probably on our back end has some sort of acceptable values. Update, nope, okay. Catch error, console log ERR, and if that try block works, then we should get a response to which is stored in the res. Console log res.data. And keeping in mind what would be coming back. See here, classify bug schema. Yeah, approved, unclassified, duplicate, or unapproved. So probably when we update the bug, we need that classification. When we update. I'm going to put that on my back end, that we can accept a classification, and it needs to be approved, unclassified, duplicate, or unapproved, and probably need that in a drop-down list so they can only select one of those. I'm not going to require it though, so that's something to continue to work on. Okay, console log res.data. Otherwise we catch the error. And let's see what breaks. So we just change the title. We need, of course, to pass along our credentials. Now, I don't know, somehow, I'm sure using this await, async await method, we can pass in the headers into the HTTP headers and change the authorization. Let's new chat using the async version of Axios.put. How can I pass along a headers object? Okay, URL data, comma, headers. Here we go. So after the data, let's pass along headers. And so this is the data, comma, let's say object. Is it? No, headers. Let's see, is it like this? Headers, colon, object, authorization, colon, bearer, auth dot token. That looks good. We might have an extra set of curlies, but let's make sure we got auth into our bug editor. And now clear that out, refresh from 8 until noon. You do not have any of these permissions. Getting closer. Okay, keeping in mind my backend had a bunch of these empty permissions. Remember that? So I need to push my backend again. To the live version. Because I had this has permission that were all empty. More or less, I didn't finish that exercise. Okay, so redeployed the back end. Let me log out, clear all that. Log in. Welcome. Edit a bug from 8 until noon. Success, bug updated. Okay, bug ID updated. Ultimately, let's check out my database and see if I go to bugs and app running slow. Okay. We got a success message, which is nice, but it doesn't ultimately update. And so if I were to log out and log back in, you want your success messages, it still says 9 to noon. Let's take a look. Yeah, so Grant's did update and mine did not. Now here's my title. And you know, kind of the thing that's happening here is I'm not testing my result, right? So here I run this update bug with a bug ID and updating the found bug. But regardless of what this update bug sends back, I just basically say if it sends anything back, then we say the bug is updated. Now I did notice that let's see, bug ID is being tested. So we're getting into here because ultimately this if statement has to be true. Const bug updates is empty. We read the data from the rec body. Now I am noticing the classification is left off there. And then I would say if classification forget here, if there's a description, update the found bugs description and the bug updates description. If there's that, found bugs, steps to boost and bug updates. So if classification, found bug classification equals classification and bug updates dot classification equals class if so we update the title if title, found bug title is title. So how I'm gonna troubleshoot this is, I guess you could first look at the dashboard and see if there's any sort of weirdness going on here. EB is the one bug that I must be working with. EB is what it finishes in. You know, to help me troubleshoot this a little bit better, I can change my bug editor to do, we'll come back here to change it back to localhost just temporarily and boot up my back end. And see it's on port 5003. And that way let me go ahead and on my users, log in my user. And let me grab a bug ID. So let me go to list all bugs. Grab that bug ID, update bug by ID, and change the title. Eight to noon. Now let's debug bug, found bug. Because found bug should have the new title. Found bug.title. Now it says updated. That says running slow from 8 until 12. And let's go to my database and see if it now says actually running slow from 8 until 12. So it is working here, which gives me another point in the right direction. Here, let me scroll up. And here I've got router use, URL encoded. And just like we did with the users, at least I'm troubleshooting this faster now. Router.use express.json. Let me put that on side my bug. Router.use express.json. That was it, I think. That was a problem, I think. So now let me go back to my bug editor. Let me bring it back to what it was. Let me deploy this change. Pause. Okay, redeployed the backend after making that change. Again, it was working from Postman, not working from the browser. Let's try 7 to 12. Now that says success. If I go to bug list, haha, 7 to 12. Wonderful. Okay, that's a good stopping point for today. I'd like to get more going here. This classification, we can make it a drop-down list. And obviously there's a lot more to do. You would think we'd have more than 3 screens after so many hours of work, but this stuff takes a while. So we will continue tomorrow. Grant, you good?
Yep, I'm good.
Great. All right, thank you.